Here we are.
Remember when we spent like an hour testing mics and that's what we just ended up doing? Blah, 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 blah.
No.
You don't remember that?
No.
That's concerning.
What are we doing?
We're recording.
What are we recording?
A little podcast. A little ditty.
What podcast?
Called S. S?
It's called S? S what?
S.
S.
M.
M.
Soup.
Soup!
It's all coming back now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to SMSoup, the #1 podcast with soup in the name, but not on the brain.
I'm Shelby. And that's Spencer.
And together,
we're on a journey.
We're here to take you on a journey.
Through life's biggest questions.
Through life's biggest questions. Like,
waiter, how is this soup made?
And, Shelby, if you didn't know your age, how old would you think you are?
Like at least 8. If I didn't know my age, like, am I waking up and I have no concept of my age? Is this a what if? Are we what ifing right now?
No, real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick, everybody.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're all understanding what's happening here.
Okay.
Is that you are the queen of what ifs.
Yeah.
Right? We had a whole conversation about it.
We sure did.
And you get annoyed with me when I don't just play along with it and don't just have fun with it. So as I've grown and learned to be a better person in our relationship, I have attempted to be better about what if questions. And every now and again you hit me with one and I go, what is wrong with you?
You still ask me framing questions and that's all I was doing. What was I doing wrong?
No. The framing questions are fine. The real problem is that you don't try to answer the question in earnest.
Yeah, I give a really quick answer and then I started going, okay, wait, let me think about it.
No, you only started thinking about it because I gave you a look. Because last week, you can snarl at me all you want, motherfucker. Last week, you pulled the same shit. You gave a joke answer. You were like, whatever, I don't even want to fucking do this question, whatever. And then you didn't give a real answer until after I gave my real answer. You were like, well, okay, now I'm a piece of shit. I should probably give a real answer. So I just want to know, when's it going to fucking end?
Never.
When's the hypocrisy going to end?
Never. All right, if I were to think about it, I'm a fly on the wall of my own life. And I have a day. I have the span of a day to figure out how old I am. But it's like an out-of-body experience, right? So I'm watching myself go through my day-to-day. I'm at least 43. I don't look it, but that day-to-day schedule, busted.
See, if I didn't know your age and I looked at your day-to-day schedule, I would guess you're like 16, 17. Doesn't wake up till like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Doesn't leave to like go to a job.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Kind of sit on your computer on the couch.
Right.
Maybe you do some sewing or art or like hobby type things.
Sure.
I would say you're much younger. I would say your perceived age would be much, and then like just off of like I often say that I think both you and I have like baby faces, and it's like shocking when we don't get carded.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be going the like opposite end.
See, I was just thinking like older.
And then if you're working at a station, that's when I would bump you up a little bit. Like if you have your laptop, but if you're just on your laptop on the couch,
yeah, young.
I'm assuming, yeah. But if you're at like a workstation, all right, I'll bump you up a little bit. I'm assuming you're fresh out of college.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're doing a school project.
Right.
Because I'm dumb and don't understand that people work from home.
Right. I went older because in my thought was I've only gotten less social with age.
Sure. You also went so far.
Yeah.
In age that I just think, again, I think you're not actually trying. I don't think you're trying to have a fun,
I don't think you're allowed to say when I'm
conversation.
trying and not trying.
Like you jumped 15. You think that if you were to come across somebody who is you, that your guess is, oh, they're in their 40s. You're full of shit. Fuck off.
I should have said 30s. My point was just to skew older.
Yeah.
Because I do nothing.
You were hyperbolic.
Talk to no one.
You were hyperbolic. And you're ruining my bit.
Spencer, how old would you say you were?
Well, also, I think I find it interesting how you interpreted the question.
Okay.
Because I interpreted it as you interpreted that it was like still your stream of consciousness and that you just needed to figure out how old you are. But I guess my thought process was like, if I were a stranger and I came across me, how old do I think people would perceive me to be?
Oh.
I think that's how I almost interpreted the
Gotcha.
question.
Okay.
But I mean, your answer is completely valid in that sense.
No, apparently it's not.
No, it is.
No, it's not.
No, it is. I just think
I've just been being told it's not.
I think the age that you chose, when you put it under a microscope, a little foolish.
So what
again,
age
for
would you
me,
think?
I think it would skew lower. I think people would assume I'm younger.
Yeah.
But also, it just like depends.
Is
'cause-
it the beanie?
Yeah. It just depends though, because like with where I work and the team I work on, I'm the second youngest.
Right.
And I would imagine that like most people at the company and stuff like that would just assume low to mid 30s
Yeah.
for just about anybody at the
Yeah.
company, because you and I have had the conversation
It's a
a lot. and
company of millennials.
we have the conversation a lot with like other people too when it comes to like perceiving age of others. You're just
Yeah.
normally going to perceive them in your rough age range
Yeah.
normally.
Yeah.
And like so many people like what was your perception of 60 when you were like 10? Maybe even a little bit younger, but like
Yeah.
cognitively there enough to understand aging.
Yeah. 60 was like ancient.
Well, not necessarily ancient,
No,
but
but
like
ancient.
old. You're starting to get really wrinkly. Our parents are turning 60 and they all look fantastic.
I know. It kind of blows my mind.
Right. Like it's just really funny to think about.
Yeah.
So
My
I
dad
think-
will be 60 by the time this comes out.
I know.
Yeah.
And I just think that like
No, you're so right though.
as we move on in years and stuff, like I think people's perceived age remains younger
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah.
I
was
think
about
there's
to
a
say,
good chance that somebody who's our age now lives to like 130.
I don't think so.
I think so. 100%. You don't think somebody has 100 years left in the tank from right now?
No.
I fully disagree with you.
I fully disagree with you.
What's the oldest somebody's ever lived to? Like 115, 116?
Something like that, yeah.
So you don't think that given like modern tech, I'm not saying
right now.
I'm not saying somebody in America. I'm just saying somebody who is 28, 29 right now will live to be 130.
I just don't think so. I think
I'm
as
gonna
much
fucking prove you wrong.
I think as much as we have improved.
No, you're just arguing with me to argue with me, and you don't.
I think as much as we have improved, I still don't think we have true efficient systems in place to like actually do that.
Somebody who was born in the 1800s lived to the 2000s, Shelby.
Bored. No, but when I was 10,
That just tells me, I don't know.
when I was
Somebody who was born in late 90s
well, I can't wait to see the year 3000.
absolutely going to make it to 21 something.
When I was 10, I definitely pictured 60 as like, would that have been grandparents?
Our grandparents would have been in their 60s.
Roughly.
And for some people, depending on like how young your parents were when they had you,
Right.
I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, when I was
Well, that
10,
was
when I was 10, my
15
grandparents
years
were
ago.
probably like mid 60s.
Yeah, okay. So I pictured grandparents, and then like you said, yeah, now we can literally look at our parents and be like, you're all about to be 60. And like you said, I don't picture my grandparents.
Unless 60 to 65 really
It's
like is
where
where
it
the
gets
aging
bad.
happens. Yeah, it's just crazy.
It all goes downhill from here. That's what I'm going to say to every single one of them as they turn 60. So dark. I had a moment where I was like, I know this is like not quite, it's related. I feel like turning 30 is a very big turning point because you cannot be called Like you are no longer a young adult. You are no longer like any like
You're like officially like
you're
a full blown adult.
officially an adult.
It's like when you turn 21, from 21 to 30, those are like your new age teen years.
Yes.
That's your 13 through 19.
Yeah, but
again. So
dumber because
you're
you
a
have
young
more
adult.
free will.
You're a teen, you're a young adult. You're an adult.
Yeah, exactly. So 30 is like, it feels like a milestone, big turning point. And we were talking about like birthdays like a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like, no, I know I'm not going to be like 30 tomorrow, but I'm like, I'm getting close to being 30. And I was like, I can't even picture my friends being 30. Like, I can't picture anyone being 30.
We're really not that close to 30.
We're getting close.
We still have 3
We've
years.
passed the halfway point.
To 30? No
Yeah.
shit, we passed that when we were 15,
Shut
you
up.
fuck.
You know what I'm talking about. But it's just, that blows my mind. Like that, because
I
I'm like basically what I said is the past 3 years have flown. So I already know like turning 30 is going to be here like that.
I don't know, 3 years is a long time still.
Yeah, but the past 3 years I feel like have just been crazy.
Yes.
You don't think so? I don't know. It's just something I was thinking
I
about.
don't know.
I just like, I can't picture my friends being 30. And like 30 feels like your brother's like 30 or whatever, isn't he? Like I
Yes,
see that as
my brother's
like
5 years older than me. He's turning 32.
I see that as like, oh, the people above us are 30. We aren't. Like we won't be 30. Like you know what I mean? Like that just feels like it's over there. It's way over there. It's other people that I'm connected to, but I don't personally know.
No, but I still feel that way. I still feel like 30 is like way over there. I feel like you're having this not existential crisis, but you're having this moment 2 years too early.
Yeah, probably. I'm not worried. I just think it's
not
crazy.
even. It's not even that you're worried. It's
Yeah.
like I think you're thinking about being 30 too much for somebody who's not
Probably.
even close to being 30.
I haven't even turned 27 yet.
But I also think there's been a lot of talks about how like the pandemic and stuff like
Yeah.
really like
Warped
warped
perception
time
of time.
for
Yeah.
Especially people in our
Are you kidding me? Especially
generation.
like teenagers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine.
Yeah, and then like obviously the fact that like, you know, the way I still see it is that like we're still young enough that a full year is a long time.
It is.
And then it's like once you hit 45, 50, start pushing 60, it's like a year is very fast.
Yeah.
Because you have so many years behind you
Yeah.
at that point. But when you only have so many under your belt, a year takes forever.
It really does. That's why literally I was just reading that like people say like I'm gonna derail the conversation.
Well, real quick, like we haven't even been out of college for 5 full years yet.
Right. That's true. That's true, I guess.
College feels like a lifetime
it
ago.
does feel like a lifetime ago.
Right? Like we moved to Boston and like I haven't been at my job for more than I got it in 2019, so 2019 to 2020 was 1. 2020 to 21 is 2. 21 to 22 is 3. 22 to 23 was 4.
You just hit 4 years.
Just hit 4 years.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's like and sometimes I still feel like I've barely been there.
Right.
Anyway.
So today we're here to
What
talk.
were you gonna say to derail the conversation?
Oh, it's just you were like a year's a really long time, and I was like, yeah, you're right, because the
It's
thought
306.
of committing myself to anything for a year is like way too daunting
Well,
because it
you've
feels like forever.
You've committed to something for 8 years,
No, I don't think so.
and you've committed to it for the rest of life.
No, I don't think so.
Say it. Say those magic words.
I love you.
It's a long enough silence.
Yeah, that was really uncomfortable for the listener.
And for you, I know.
No, but like multiple times. Are you gonna say it back?
No. Fuck you. What? Again, the hypocrisy. No, I can't stand it here.
When
I love you too.
I Can't even say focus. I literally brought up wanting to write a book yesterday, and people say it takes generally minimum a year, all steps considered, if not longer. But like if you're really committed and like get all the steps in and timeline works for you, generally a year is the time it takes to write and publish a book. And I was like, I've wanted to write a book for like most of my life. I've jumped around on what it would be about and blah, blah, blah. I've written a lot. I've written a little. And literally, I can't imagine committing it, even though I really want to. I'm like, what idea is worth committing a year of my life to?
100%.
Like, that's kind of where I get hung up on more than anything. It's not like the act of writing. It's not like anything like that. But I'm just like, which there's nothing wrong with committing yourself to something and then it not panning out the way you want and like deciding to part ways, deciding to not.
50% of marriages end in divorce.
Right, exactly. So, like, I don't actually see anything wrong with that, but I do like, I'll get really into it. And then after a while, I'm like, is this worth a year of my life? You know what I mean? Basically, I'm already having doubts. Last night I was feeling great. Today, not so much. No one is surprised. No, I'm joking, but it is crazy to me. I'm not joking.
Oh my god.
But yeah.
Let's just move on. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
You started it. Today
Yeah,
we're
just
here.
go back to not caring and not trying.
Today we're here to talk about stuff. How much stuff? Who's to say?
I think we are. We're
about to
going
say.
to literally say how much.
So this whole concept is not original in any capacity. When did this happen? A year ago, apparently. It felt longer than that.
Well, it might have been. YouTube doesn't tell you a year and
No,
6
it says
months.
4. Oh, that's true. But it wasn't like, I thought it was like 2 to 3 years ago. It was 1 year ago,
To 2
within the
years.
past calendar year. That's true, to 2 years.
Not within the past calendar year.
Yeah, I'm
Within
understanding
past
now the
calendar year
conversation
means
we're having.
literally a year.
Okay.
It's from anywhere from 365 to 730 days old.
Yeah. So Matt Diavella is a content creator, YouTuber, film producer. Should probably have a better word for it. Definitely like creates a lot of like cinematic, like will work on film projects, etc. He is, in my opinion, very well known for internet content focusing on minimalism and productivity and things like that. He does a lot of those 30-day challenges. He did the taking a cold shower for 30 days, stuff like that. I literally used to watch like every single one of his videos. And about a year ago to 2 years ago, he made a video titled, "I counted everything I own as a minimalist." And
Just want to be clear, it was less than 2 years
it
ago.
was less than 2 years ago.
More than a year.
This concept was, as soon as I watched that video where he genuinely counts every item in his apartment, house, whatever, I was like, I want to do that.
Real quick, are
Yeah.
we sure he didn't do this multiple times? Because I actually, to your point, I remember this being a topic, I feel like, back when we lived in Brighton.
Well, that was more than 2 years ago. I don't know, and maybe someone else did it. / maybe it came up and he like did a version of it. I don't know, but that's the video specifically that I was like, I want to count all the stuff I have. I don't know.
Maybe it was while we were in Malden. I don't know.
It was
It doesn't
definitely while
matter.
we were there, while we were in Malden, that when I watched it and wanted to count
I know.
everything.
I could have
Thought it was before
sworn
that.
you brought up about counting back in Brighton, but
Maybe. I
No,
don't know.
whatever, it
You
doesn't
know,
matter.
there were times of like minimalists try to own less than 100 things, minimalists try to own less than 1,000 things. There's been a lot of numbers tied to
Oh my God.
minimalism.
not to like get too into it, but holy fuck, did this validate me so much.
Yeah.
This was like, I'm so happy you bit the bullet and decided to just start counting things and like committed to
Because
it.
it could validate you.
Yeah, 100%. It validated me.
So I obviously again I've been wanting to do this for like 2 years since watching the video. Less than 2 years.
Less than 2 years. Call it a healthy year and a half.
Almost debated doing it during us moving. So I was like, oh, as I put things in boxes, I'll count them. And then that sounded like hell to try and do that all at the same time.
That would have been rough.
So instead, I took about 3 days and went through our place now and counted it. Why, you might ask? Mostly for the bit. And I was curious. and I really enjoyed Matt D'Avella does like a fantastic breakdown at the end, kind of just like who owns what, like between like him and his partner, who owns like what were the categories, blah 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 blah. So again, this was heavily taken from him. Cannot say that enough. But yeah, it took about 3 days to count all of our goods. And of course, if anyone's going to be a real pain in the ass about like what's an item, what's not an item, of course you could like really get in the weeds about all of that. One, I wasn't going to go that crazy because I didn't want to lose my sanity over this, just for curiosity's sake.
Mm-hmm.
So like in Matt D'Avella's video, it's very like, is a box of screws 100 screws? Is it a box of screws? I took the approach of it's a box of screws because again, my sanity I wasn't that committed.
I think for the most part, where we landed on stuff was like, if it's effectively scrap material, or if it is effectively like what you're saying,
multiple
like
pieces to make up
100
some
screws.
Yeah.
It's whatever container they're in.
Yeah.
If you had a drawer.
Yeah.
Where you had miscellaneous screws, those I feel like should be counted
individually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or at the very least, like they should be considered a set of screws.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
Even if it's 4 or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that at the very least, I feel like is a more, not even necessarily like honest, but just like a more meaningful way of trying to like take a look at what it is that you have.
Yeah.
You know, if every, you know, pretty much everything that we have, that's like bulk or stuff like that can get pared down into just like a bin or something.
Sure.
So like we could literally just be like, oh, we just have a bin.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, yeah, but like that's a little disingenuous.
Yeah.
Based on like the fact that there's a pillow in there and 3 jackets and
yeah. So
it's definitely not perfect
and the goal was not to be perfect.
No, but I mean any amount of effort is going to give you at least a glimpse, and I think you did a good job.
Also in like a similar sense, the way I treated it, which again, a lot of this came from Matt D'Avella, was basically like, is my monitor one and the power cord another? I said no, which I believe he did as well, because like your monitor isn't going to function without the power cord. Like that is a set combination.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the logic to just sort of set up like what was and wasn't an item and all that.
But miscellaneous power cords
were their own things. Right. Because again, if they're like just free living, taking up space, that's an item.
Yeah. Also, to be clear, we're doing a breakdown of all of our stuff, and then we're going into like trends and stuff like that next week for the deep dive.
Week, yeah.
Just wanted to make sure we're clear.
I have a few tiny stats at the end if we want to get into just a few things, but it's not. I mean, the deep dive next week will be a lot more.
I was gonna say we can bring them up now and then just bring them back up again next week to like give clarity. Oh my god, that's a lot.
No, it's mostly just me right now. So the thing that everyone quotes, every single like consumer, especially anyone that gears towards like minimalism and is curious about stuff, this stat that keeps showing up is apparently, this is from like 2014 or something. It's really hard to actually find wherever this came from, but somehow someone started saying the average US household, which I believe it is like believed to be a 4-person family household, like you probably own like some amount of land, has 300,000 things in it. I feel
like that has to be
is
like
so outrageous.
I feel like that has to be like my PS5.
Yeah.
Plus its HDMI cord.
Which
plus its stand. Plus its power cord.
Want to get that
plus
level
the cord
of crazy.
For the charging cord for the controller.
Sure.
Plus the controller.
Sure.
The PS5 is 6.
I would have to imagine that is the case. If wherever the hell this number, again, it's
whereas
really
we
hard to track
like
down where
the
this came from.
PS5 and the controller too.
Yeah. So there's been a ton of this number, of course, like floated out there again in like 2014, and people like lost their minds over it. I feel like it was actually a big push as to why people started like kind of being more cognizant of like how much they had, whether in an extreme sense or not. but it was a huge push to like basically any minimalism content you'd see in the mid 2010s said this number somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a ton of pushback in that it's like, what is an item? Like that and that. Like also just like there's been cases where people are like, this hoarder like was shown on this show and it said they only had 80,000 items. How does a hoarder only have 80,000? But apparently the average US home has 300,000. Like it's probably a heavily inflated number based on like some crazy circumstance. Again, it's really hard to even find the actual where this came from.
I mean, I will say this. If a hoarder is able to do 80K, it wouldn't shock me if a family of 4 had 100,000.
Sure.
But
I'm not saying people, like, I'm not sitting here saying consumerism isn't insane. That is not what I'm getting at by arguing this.
Based on what you're about to read for us, I just find it so hard to believe.
I find it to be a heavily inflated number. There's no.
We should get your parents.
That would take days
to count everything.
But that would be very interesting to compare. That would take days. I mean, it took like 3 days to do our place.
I know. Well, I just feel like that would give like a better glimpse into like how we're doing versus like what I would consider is probably the average.
Yeah. No, that'd be a good like down the road thought if like I was home and wanted to like take part in that. But regardless, also a really interesting stat, which this came from apparently professional organizer Regina Lark, who I do believe wrote a book or like is heavily tied into like organization and stuff and collecting. They also had a stat, which this is just crazy, that the children of the United States make up 3.7% of all children on this planet. But they have upwards of 47% of all toys and children's books in existence. 3.7% of all children have 47% of all basically children consumer goods. And that I think is a very that is explaining what we're explaining. Like basically like consumerism is insane. Like whether you believe the 300,000 number or not, I don't believe it. But I do believe that we have like an extensive consumerism problem.
100%.
And the United States / just like whatever you want to say, the Western world or the global North is incredibly well known for having a much higher consumer rate than other parts of the world and all of that. We'll probably go much more into that next week, but that is the gist of everything. So we counted our stuff. Obviously we separated it by room, by whose it was, as in mine, Spencer's. I did specify Grogu because I wanted to see like how much stuff, quote unquote, he has.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we bought it for him or we're given it for him. Or I just put us. Like if it's a joint like kitchen, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, I'm the one who bought this and I use it most of the time. Like I don't care. Like we both go in the kitchen and use the shit.
I make the egg sandwiches more often, so the toaster would be Spencer's.
Yeah, like that's not worth it. So things like that, were just marked us or shared or whatever. And then they were separated by categories, which I definitely made too many categories, but I did not feel like going through and cleaning it up. So you have anything from like, there is a whole category that's just called cat to help further discern what's Grogu stuff. Clothing, collectibles, crafting, decorations, furniture. I did specify gaming and crafting and collectibles is different because we were curious on who had the higher collections of our own stuff. So I had to differentiate, whereas maybe if someone was just like counting all their stuff, they wouldn't have so many different categories. Kitchen, hygiene, tools, technology, etc. Like bunch of categories like that. And also wanted to specify we did not count any perishables or items that like you physically use up.
Right.
So didn't count like shampoo, didn't count food, didn't count any of that. Obviously that would add to the number. I don't think it would make us hit 300,000. No way in any capacity.
Unless you're counting each individual grape.
It's true. But yeah. So some of the stats that I wanted to hit were okay. Total count of goods. I know
goods.
That's what I wrote. Total count of goods. Total count of all the items in our house. This isn't very fun because I know you know the numbers. I want to be like, what do you think it's around?
I'm sorry. It's in the 3,000s.
It is. It's 3,673 items. Our whole existence is wrapped up in under 4,000 items. And as soon as we had the number, I was like, there's no frame of reference or argument on what's good, bad, right, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Because unless it's like literally causing harm to you or what's around you, like a hoarding situation, there's not really a right or wrong. And that was kind of like some of the, not so much stats, but just like commentary was like, some people get enjoyment out of minimalism. Some people get enjoyment out of collecting. Some people get, like, it doesn't matter.
What's the opposite of minimalism?
Technically maximalism.
That's what I get joy out of.
Yeah.
Give me all the stuff.
Gimme. No,
only when it comes to games.
I do feel like we both have collector personalities, if you were to call that a personality. Traits?
What
do you call that?
I feel like we had a whole episode upon moving here dedicated to Shelby needs a collector's thing. Shelby doesn't collect anything.
I don't collect a thing, but
you do accumulate stuff.
I do accumulate stuff, as the numbers have proven. I've also always been, I know some people hate this word, I've always been a pack rat. Like, I love to keep things. Like, I love to just be like, I want that. And it doesn't mean it has value.
I have and I think I don't know if it's just everybody has this problem and they don't want to admit it, or if it's like from our upbringing / the area we grew up in and stuff like that. I have such a hard time letting stuff go.
Yeah.
And that has only compounded in the times where I did let stuff go. And now I want those things again.
Right. Yeah, I have always had incredibly high pack rat tendencies. We definitely come from an area that it's like every shelf is full of little things. Everything has a trinket. Everything is a little like memory. Like, we definitely do come from an area that does that. So I don't know if, like you said, if that's just kind of like ingrained in us now. But I'd say we treat them differently. Like, you do go more the collector's route. I don't feel like I go quite the collector's route. I just collect things. Like, I don't like have a category. I'm just like, oh, I want that. Like, it's my new little shiny thing. You know what I mean? Like, I used to have a freaking rock collection, and like, I just have like boxes of little things I can't let go of. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to explain that without using the word collection a million times over.
I know exactly what you mean. I used to collect marbles.
That's fun. I also had some marbles.
I liked marbles.
Yeah, they're so cool to look at.
I never played marbles.
Me neither. I always was like, should I learn how to do it? I have all these marbles and I don't know what to do with them. Anyway, so who between Spencer or myself has the most items?
Shelby.
I can't tell which graph is which.
Did I ruin it for you?
No, I think it's the second one, isn't it? It's us, Grogu, Shelby, Spencer.
Yeah.
So of 3,500 items, we combined own 32.2% of those items. A third.
Right. Which track? Like, what's the stuff that's us plus Grogu? 32.3 plus.
It's 32.2 plus 2%. Grogu owns 2%.
He has 2% stake in this house, so 34%. So roughly a third.
30. Yeah. Right.
You know, and that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally perfect math. Like, a third is us, a third is me, a third is you. Like, that is genuine perfect math.
Because you split the third that's us in half. You get 17%. It's like 34, right? 34.2. So you get 17.1% each. So each of us should have 32.9%. So go ahead. What did you have?
I had 41.4%.
Interesting. You know,
leaving Spencer with 24.4%.
Y'all may not know this about Shelby and I.
Which I don't think either of us really expected that big of a difference.
But I'm a realist.
Neither of us expected that big of a difference.
I'm a realist. I have been gaslit into thinking that I am the problem in this place my entire existence.
Must be so hard. When you're here to speak your truth.
Yeah, no, give me a second. I just would like to thank the Academy for approving these lies.
Anything
Many
else?
times Shelby has had this desire, and maybe she does have the mental toughness to pull something like this off, which is to leave everything and be able to just live on the road.
Yeah.
However, what are you going to do?
I don't know. Cry.
What are you going to do without your 40% stuff?
I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm a figure it out in the moment kind of girl.
Like you've had all these different like
big plans, dreams,
just phases.
extreme life
Phases.
Yeah, we'll call them that.
Where you're like, I could be a minimalist. and like I
do have the total number. Shelby has 1,520 items. Spencer has 897.
And like I really don't ever set out with the intention of like raining on your parade.
I don't believe you for a second.
I really don't. It doesn't give me any joy, but also
I also don't believe that. No, you're a very realistic person.
But no, in all seriousness, it doesn't give me joy when you're like,
and you're
like, I want to do this thing. But I think like,
yeah, you're a realistic, somewhat more critical.
We've been watching,
I am a dream world. Anything is possible.
We've been watching that 70s show, right? Not to draw comparisons, but we've been watching that 70s show. When Bob's wife leaves him.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And Bob's like, she's going to come back.
Yeah.
And everybody knows she's not going to come back.
Yeah.
At that point, he's doing more harm to himself.
Right.
By believing that lie.
You're saying, I believe my wife's going to come back.
I'm saying you sometimes believe so passionately in these lies that you tell yourself.
Yeah. It's called manifestation, baby.
Maybe.
No, I know. I'm a pretty unrealistic
legitimately,
thinker.
I'm never actually trying to like ruin it for you, because obviously in any moment, like at any given moment, at any given point in life, people can do stuff.
Sure.
If they put their minds to it.
Sure.
Sometimes I don't think that you're being realistic about your situation.
Yeah.
And I'm only talking here about like your whole like phase where you want to be a minimalist, because it's like I'm looking around and I know I have a lot of shit and I know I'm the problem coming back from college to home, but my Durango had a lot of your shit in it, and I don't think the Passat had any of my shit in it. And I get that a Passat's a small car, but like, you got to pack with what you got.
Right. No, I hear you. I know I'm a pretty unrealistic thinker. I'm a big dreamer, if you will.
Which I think is a great trait to have. I really do. Like, I'm at times a little jealous of it. But like,
I love walking into a room. I get sick joy out of being like, guys, what if this insane thing? And everyone goes,
I'm going to start answering those questions with no. Just flat out. Like, what if we didn't?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think my age is 45.
I don't know why I'm drawn to extremely like different situations than what I'm experiencing. Also, I just like in theory love a challenge, but the minute the challenge, I'm 1 foot into the challenge, I'm like, get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here.
Well, I think
because I'm such a comfort person at my core.
I know.
Yeah.
So with that, the juxtaposition of being a comfort person, yet always thinking the grass is literally greener, is so crazy.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I like literally think I could solve all my problems if I got rid of my stuff. But I couldn't.
You would be ruined.
I would be ruined. I would emotionally be ruined. I sometimes go, I'm not going to bring anything with me creative for a week. And then I like live in a pit of despair for a week. And I'm telling myself I could do that full time.
A bit dramatic, but
I never talk dramatically.
But no, that is like a great case in point.
Yeah, what I'm getting at.
I wouldn't say you live in a pit of despair. You literally just end up reading or some shit.
Yeah, you're right.
And you're happy with that. But
no, see, the thing is, when people walk into this house, they're like, wow, this is a lot. you know? And then they're like, wow, this is like on first glance, a lot of it is yours because you're just like, that's what's like in our main space. I'm not like trying to say anything dramatic. I'm saying this is why this is perception is here. And people are like, whoa, this is crazy. And I've literally had people go, Shelby, where's all of your stuff? And I go, you do not want to go upstairs because I have completely taken over the parts of this place you cannot see unless you are here for a long period of time.
Honestly, it's kind of...
And then you will see too much of my stuff.
Going back to the whole like collectors thing, it's honestly good that you don't have a... You don't have a very show-offy...
No.
Like my collection is very show-offy.
Yes.
It's all games
Well,
and consoles and stuff like that, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, obviously it comes down to like person to person, but like, I think even like we literally had somebody here yesterday who was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the average person will have some semblance of appreciation for that.
Sure.
And I feel like the only thing that's like super display that you have is like a lot of the Lord of the Rings stuff.
Sure. Which is
It's a
in our
collection,
display stuff.
And that's a collection.
Yeah.
That I would say is more so
It's
yours.
my collection of like 16 things.
But
this is why I was saying in our collection episode, I literally should not have a collection because I collect
you have.
shit. Yeah, my collection
No,
starts to look insane.
I'm saying it's good that we don't have
Yes.
we don't have to worry about the fight because
Yeah.
very clearly my thing is more interesting and cool.
Very clearly.
And you Oh man.
No, yeah, my collection is all like it belongs. It's all like stuff that is going to get worked with in some capacity. Like it's all for projects.
Yeah.
And so like literally all my shit lives in like bins and bags and closets and like all of that stuff. Like
it's
it
just
wouldn't.
it's just so funny that like and it is like of my 800, like how many gaming items do we have?
Gaming says 702.
702. So and how
And
many
that
items
should
do I
believe
have?
Consoles 897.
So and I'm guessing
And most
all
of probably the
gaming?
remainder is probably.
Did we say Switch is us?
I did say Switch is
And like
us.
Switch games are us.
Yes.
Okay, but cool. So no,
but
no,
that's,
no. But
that's not a big
but
portion.
let's just say
of
gaming.
this
So
stuff.
700 items are gaming related, and I have just
You
under
have-
900.
Yeah.
So, it's not perfect. Say we have 100 items for the Switch, which is overselling.
Yeah.
So 600 of the gaming items are mine. Basically, is how
right.
we're gonna designate them,
Right.
even if it's something that is like technically shared or something.
Right.
Like the GameCube is technically yours, but like I'm sure we technically just marked it as mine.
Yeah, I think we did.
It's so crazy that like, but that's like it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Like,
it.
I just have
So in that way, when you
that.
walk in and you see that,
And so
that's everything.
on display
is everything.
is basically
yeah.
600 items.
Yeah.
All at once.
Yeah.
Because they pack relatively tight as well,
Mhm.
that you can just fit them in one room.
Right.
And people go, wow, Spencer has a lot of shit. And it's just like, it doesn't even take up that much space.
It really doesn't.
Like, it's confined very nicely.
Um.
Yeah, we just bought another bookcase. So what? So fucking what?
Did I do a? But yeah, basically, like, I'm realizing I broke down some of my crafting categories into different things because I was curious on what had the most. So I was like, oh, gaming's like such a high category. And then I was like, wait, if I combine all my crafting, that would be the higher category because that's why I have 1,500 items is because of that.
Because I think we even added it up on hobbies.
Yes.
And like gaming was, I think, like 100 less than
Yeah.
all of your stuff combined.
I think you're right.
You're like, but you have 4 broken out categories, I think.
I do.
Which, I mean, gaming, we couldn't, like, I think, oh, excuse me. Gaming and collectibles, I guess we like.
No, okay. Yeah, all of I had like crafting for basically anything that didn't fit into the other categories or just like whatever. Sewing, painting, photography.
Mm-hmm.
Sewing by a landslide, the biggest category. Which up until
It's 'cause
probably
you have a lot of
last year,
fabrics and
probably
stuff.
up until last year, that wouldn't have been the case. It would have been a big category. I don't think it would have so far exceeded the other categories
Well, I was thinking about that too.
until the last like 6 months of my life.
Literally moving here.
Yeah.
I do think about that too, and how it may have been different. But I also didn't have quite as many games.
No, we didn't. So
That's grown.
now I
quite a
almost wish
bit.
we would have counted in before we left Boston, but that's okay. My total of like crafting, sewing, painting is 925 items.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that would help. That would exceed obviously gaming. The categories that surprised us were on the who owns more was clothing,
Mm-hmm.
because going into it, we were like, Spencer's gonna have more clothing. Not saying it would be like, oh my god, Spencer's 80% and I have 20%, but just like over time, we've been like your clothing and stuff tends to take up more space than mine.
I probably would have assumed not 80-20, but like legitimately like close to 65-35 me.
Yeah. And
But that was also, but if we did only look at clothing,
like fabric that you put on your body,
just like shirt, like tops
Yeah,
and bottoms,
you probably do have more.
I did have more.
You did, yeah.
But then once we added in shoes
And
you
accessories.
then you know, the shoes is like +5 in your direction.
Yeah.
And then accessories
Is almost
is
all
like
me.
+25 or something like that in your direction. Even so, down to just clothing, we were closer to 50-50 than I thought we would be.
Yes, me too.
Which was shocking.
Yeah.
Because I legitimately would have thought that like I would be like 61% to your 38-39. Like,
Yeah.
not like a little bit more than 60-40.
Right.
And definitely further away from like a 53-47 split, which is, I think,
Yep,
roughly.
literally, I have 53.9, you have 46.1. And that's including, again, shoes, accessories, and clothing. But yeah, like you said, if we were looking at just clothing, it did end up being like basically a 50-something, 40-something split, which we thought would be a higher split.
It was probably this almost the same exact split, except
the other way.
flop. Like I probably had 54 to your 46, basically.
Yeah, probably.
When it was just, simply clothing items.
That was a bit of a shock until I can. Because whenever we have the conversation, I don't take into account accessories and shoes and all of that. So I wasn't thinking about all the extra little things.
Let me see real quick.
Yeah, you're good. And then probably the last category was just either it would be, we already answered what would have the highest amount of stuff. It would be any of my crafting things, followed up by your gaming. And it would be, and the last category was which room had the most, which ended up being our bedroom by like a pretty high amount. But the bedroom does hold some more of my crafting stuff. It's just excess storage for anything that doesn't fit where I normally do my work.
Can you remember 186, please?
186. You got it. But yeah, so a lot of the, more social commentary. Again, we'll go much more into this next week on terms of like actual. What?
You have more clothing than me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have 210.
And you have what? 180.
186.
Wow. That's
I'm trying
crazy.
to look here, like, technically, if we tried to only count top and bottoms, though. Also, were you counting swimwear? If it was like a two-piece, did you count it as 2 items, or a swimsuit set?
I think
as
I
one?
counted it as 1, unless it was a
15 swimwear items?
I have a lot of. I've literally, they're all like given to me from people who don't like the fit of them. Listen,
I'm the problem.
I've bought like 2 to 3 swimsuits in my
I'm the
life.
problem. Sorry, I'm just trying to like
No,
go
you're
back
fine.
again. Pants bottoms. 26, 38 plus 66. 38 plus 66 is 104. 104, 104, 104, 104. Just tops and bottoms for you is 89. So I have you beat by 15. And then you
pass in
pass
socks,
in, like,
underwear,
coats and your onesies and costumes.
Yeah, I just said those were all mine.
Swimwear, you beat me 15-4. So
yeah, I'm into onesies, swimwear, and costumes. Those are the main categories of my wardrobe.
it's crazy.
That is pretty crazy. I guess that makes sense though why on like if you were to think day-to-day clothes, we assumed you would pass me because you do. But it's as soon as you get into these other more random categories that I have quite the accumulated piles.
I think it's interesting. And I mean, it does have like a majority of our clothing, obviously,
Yeah.
housed in it.
Yeah.
In which like every piece of clothing is an item.
Sure.
So I don't know. Maybe it's surprising that it's not beating out other rooms by more, but basically our place breaks down into like what are our bodies made up of? Like how much water?
Like 80%.
70%,
70%. 70% sounds right.
Maybe I'm thinking more like what the air that we breathe is like 97% oxygen or something like
God,
that.
I don't know.
So regardless, that's almost how the breakdown of our place is, because it's like 95% of our apartment. That's a little high. It's like 87% basically is our bedroom, the spare bed, and the living room.
Where we spend all our time.
But the thing I was getting at originally was the bedroom is 32.3%
of all of our belongings.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
housed in the bedroom.
and the living room is 25.2, and then right after it is that spare bed, which is 24.6.
Which is funny because the spare bed is small compared to those other two rooms.
Well, and I was going to say, sorry, that's where I was actually also going to get at.
Yeah.
In our last place,
Yeah.
the smaller bedroom was the bedroom that we used as our bedroom.
Yeah. So that would have been probably the lowest capacity room.
I cannot imagine that we had a third of our stuff in that room.
No, it was very small.
We had a TV, we had our shoes in there.
Yeah.
And we had our closet, and like that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in this one, because it's so much bigger, but it is the better room to have be a bedroom.
Yeah.
Because it's not like facing the parking lot and stuff like that. We have like some overflow stuff in there, like a bookshelf and like storage
extra
that
storage
would have been in a craft room instead. But crazy.
So again, we'll get more into the actual like social commentary on like stuff next week. But of course, this all comes to like the whole you can't really do it wrong, like within reason. Like there's not a right or wrong answer to how much stuff you have, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of a lot of it. Again, Regina Lark was going into, our belongings are a reflection of ourselves. So it's like, what does your stuff say? Like a really big thing that blew up was like,
you know what my stuff says about me?
What does your stuff say about you?
It says I like video games.
I like video games.
Guess what?
What? Do you like video games? Oh my God. He loves them.
You're goddamn right I do.
But like, so I believe it was Lark. I might be quoting something else. No, so it's Lark. Sorry, I wanted to confirm. Again, our belongings are a reflection of ourselves. And she had this big reflection where she was like, I have this insane, effectively library of books. And at a point, they were like everything to me. But now it feels like they're more of a reflection of what I'm trying to say about myself than what I actually am, or like how I actually feel about them. And it kind of is like, again, we'll go into this more on like a grand scale next week, but she ultimately decided like by having such this collection of books, it felt more like trying to say something like, oh, because I have this collection, I'm clearly a highly educated, very like intriguing person. And she's like, and I feel that way, but I no longer felt like it felt like just having them was the identity, not necessarily like utilizing them or continuing the collection in any way or like anything like that. So she ended up like giving them to like a student who could like actually benefit and like learn from them. And that it sort of draws the line of like when our collections, whatever you want to call them, are culmination of things, when it draws the line of like what it genuinely actually says about you, because it is a reflection of you and how you live on a day-to-day basis. Right. And when you're like collecting it for the sake of like an appearance or something like that, which I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I'm just like, that is the reflection of the stuff we have.
I just want people to think I like video games. I actually haven't played a video game in 30 years.
He's not even 30. So at the end of the day, 3,600 feels like a lot, doesn't feel like a lot. I can go back and forth on it in my head.
Yeah.
I guess in a lot of ways, I'm happy our top categories are the things we do every single day. Like they're the thing, like in case those numbers don't show it, we clearly surround ourselves with like things we're like very passionate about.
Yeah, I do play.
Do we have them in surplus? Probably.
I do play a lot of games on my digital only PS5.
Like again,
makes you think.
Not to say again, you can love something and maybe not completely surround yourself with it. You could also make an argument with that. But
yeah, but you know, we've talked about this argument plenty of times where it's like you shouldn't feel shame for the hobby that you have or anything like that, because what is anybody doing with their time?
Correct.
And with that being said too, like people put up like mechas to a sports team that they like. You know, like let's not act like anybody's display or anything like that is technically above anybody else.
Oh,
you know
absolutely
what I mean?
not.
If you're some fucking suburban mom with your live, laugh, love fucking
art
saying on your bathroom wall, fuck off.
But yeah, so
you touch grass.
Maybe there'll be more numbers that I pull into reference next week on our deep dive if I find it like makes any sense. Or if I guess anyone really has any strong questions, feel free to ask them, since I have the numbers now on a sheet and can answer questions. But yeah, that is all. Come back next week for somewhat of a deep dive, big overarching essay, somewhat around consumption, somewhat around stuff and its cultural significance, and all of that. So I still need to write that all out because I don't even know what I'm talking about yet. So I just keep saying vague descriptions.
Hey, but you know I'll be here to fucking throw us off and derail.
You know it. So thank you all for listening. Again, literally all credit to Matt Diavella, who is where I completely got this concept from. Spencer, you want to say something?
Yeah, but go ahead and finish your part.
I guess if you're really looking to kill a few days, go ahead and count all your stuff.
Could do that.
Let us know what number you hit. Or
just pick a category, like whatever.
Or pick a category.
Whatever the thing is that you think is the thing that takes up like if you're into gaming or something like that, and you know, count all the gaming stuff that you have, or count whatever that category is for you. Yeah. And let us know.
I will say it's always like, again, if you're just ever curious, it's really easy to start with clothing because normally that's contained to like one space.
Or clothing, yeah.
So that's a really easy, if someone's even like mildly curious, that's just, you know, normally it's all in one little closet or a dresser or who knows what. So again, this was all for fun. It really wasn't for anything bigger or anything. Yeah, Spencer, take it away.
If you also want to kill a couple of days, don't forget that we're doing a movie club.
Yeah.
Where we are watching the 5 nominees for Best Picture from 1983.
Hell yeah.
Shelby, how many have we watched so far?
We've watched one. And it was the Best Picture winner.
It was. We have until February
26th.
26th. That is when we will be giving our review of the movies and whether or not we think that they're all good contenders for Best Picture or not.
Yeah. And if the winner should have been the winner
of the 5, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to kill some time, I think you posted something about
it.
Where'd
you post
that?
I posted on SMSoup podcast on TikTok and Instagram that you can see all the movies that are listed for easy reference.
So there you go. So
or just Google 1983 Best
watch
Picture
them, and then,
nominees.
You know, you can partake actively when you listen and hear what we have to say.
And be like, are you crazy? That's a dumb take.
I hated that one.
Yeah.
That was my least favorite.
Yeah.
I'm no longer listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm rating it 1 star.
All right. Well, we'll see you all next week. Thanks for being here. Bye.